Welcome to Living Lit, where conversations spark inspiration to live in truth. Journey together with us to explore what it means to live a liturgical life and walk in the truth of our faith. Let's instill a culture in our hearts, homes, families, and world, living a life cooperating with and walking alongside our Lord. I'm Robyn Burgwald. Let's be a light, share the light, shine the light, and live lit. Welcome back to Living Lit, Living in Truth. Today, I'm going to share a special conversation from my podcasting days with Dr. Burgwald on his podcast. It's one that we recorded a while back when I had the joy of part-time co-hosting with my friend Dr. Chris Burgwald on his long-running podcast, Ignition. If you don't know Dr. B, he's not only our diocesan theologian and happens to be our personal and family theologian, which is pretty darn nice. He is truly, get this, one of the OG Catholic podcasters. His podcast, Ignition, has over 655 episodes. Yep, he's recorded 655 episodes of solid, accessible Catholic teaching episodes, which I'm going to encourage you to dive into his podcast vault, which is an absolute treasure trove, and I will include a link in my show notes to get you there. Dr. B recently stepped into the role of Chancellor for our diocese, but before that, we recorded some truly wonderful episodes together, and this is one of my absolute favorite ones, and it is because it highlights one of my very favorite Advent feast days, and that is Our Lady of Guadalupe. In this episode, we explore the beauty, the history, the powerful message that Our Lady brought to Mexico all those years ago, which is also a message for our church and our domestic churches. It's such a great conversation. One of my favorite things that we do in this conversation is not only give you the history, but we point out different symbols that our Lord revealed to St. Juan Diego on his tilma that day that Our Lady, through God's help, brought this miracle to life, which is so awesome. It has so much symbolism that will absolutely blow your mind. Every year I get more and more excited about this feast day because the symbols are so neat, and it just shows us how God has worked so many miracles through the years and continues to work miracles to this day. So you're definitely going to want to tune into this episode, and you may want to watch it on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes. In this episode, we explore the beauty, the history, and that message, so you're not going to want to miss out. So settle in and enjoy this very special Advent episode from the Ignition archives with Dr. B, which I am happy to share with you here today on Living Lit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The Advent season is upon us, and with Advent comes a whole number of feasts, in particular, a number of feasts that are devoted to Mary, the Mother of God. On December 8th, we're going to celebrate Mary as the Immaculate Conception. It's a great solemnity, which is the patron feast for us as Catholics here in the United States of America. But just a few days later, on December 12th, we're going to celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who is patroness of the Americas. And while Our Lady of Guadalupe is known especially to the Catholic cultures in Central and South America, she's not as well known to many of us here in North America, including the United States. So what is the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe all about? Who is Our Lady of Guadalupe, and what does she matter for our life today? That's what we're going to be talking about today on Ignition. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Burgwald, and we want to set your faith ablaze so that you might live the adventure that comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ. Before we get into the topic for today's episode, we want you to know that we love listener feedback. So if you got questions about today's episode, or if you have ideas for future episodes, please contact us. The easiest way to do so is by email, and the address is ignition@sfcatholic.org. Again, Ignition, that's IGNITION, at SF as in Sioux Falls, Catholic, CATHOLIC.org. Casey's laughing over in the corner. I don't know why, but that's the address. Feel free to reach out with any questions about, again, today's episode or ideas for future ones. We're not going to talk about the guy behind the cameras. We're going to talk about my co-host, Robyn Burgwald. Hi, Robyn.
Hi.
Robyn, you're like, Renee Kranz is in the building, but you keep coming back for
I
more.
do.
I'm glad that you're here today, Robyn. So your passion, for folks who have not maybe heard you before on Ignition, is living liturgically, or as we like to call it,
Living lit.
Which means something else to some people, but not to us. Yeah. So just real quick, Robyn, who is Robyn Burgwald?
I am wife to Spike. I am mom to 7. I am mother-in-law to 2. I am grandma to 1 and another on the way. I'm a farm wife. I'm a Catholic convert, and I love learning about our faith and living the faith. And yeah.
Great.
That's
great.
me.
So you've been on several times now, going back, I think, this spring or even earlier this year, living liturgically. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I know one of the previous episodes we were on, we talked about this idea of living liturgically and why it matters and so important. I really want to encourage folks, if they haven't listened to you on the show before, to go back and listen, especially to that first episode or two where we talked about what does it mean just in general to live liturgically? Why is it important? Why is it awesome? And why it matters. So what we're going to be looking at today, as I teased at the open of the show, is Our Lady of Guadalupe. So just I'm going to give some broad strokes, not strucks. Some broad strokes, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through some of the more details about, about all things Our Lady of Guadalupe. Sound good? Okay, so 1531. What is today Mexico, Mary appears in December 9th. From the 9th to the 12th, there are a series of appearances of Mary, the mother of God, the mother of Jesus, to a Mexican native named Juan Diego with a really long Mexican last name that do you know how to pronounce?
I don't.
Juan Diego's last name? Okay, me either.
No, I won't try.
Maybe Casey can insert that in. Yeah, we'll work on that. Maybe next year. So Juan Diego, who is a baptized Catholic, so she appears to him. She asks him, I think, during the course of the appearances, to ask the bishop to have a church built on the spot. And then there is a miracle that happens because the bishop is a little bit like, wait, who are
why
you?
Should I believe
What's going on? So there's a miracle that happens as a result of that. A miracle which, in fact, has endured for almost 500 years.
Yeah. Awesome.
9 years from now, we'll be celebrating the 500th anniversary of these appearances, these apparitions,
so cool.
and the miracle, which has endured ever since. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So this is an approved apparition by the church. And as I mentioned also in the opener for the show, Our Lady of Guadalupe, or Holy Mary of Guadalupe, she is the patroness of the Americas. So what I want to say about that, just real quick, especially other Christians, but even some Catholics might not be familiar. So are these different Marys? So Mary, because she is the greatest disciple of her son, because she is the greatest saint. Is that why I said because? Well, she is the greatest saint. Greatest disciple of Jesus. And she goes by a number of different titles, if you will. So she is the Immaculate Conception. She is Our Lady of God, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Fatima. But it's the same Mary,
right?
Who has appeared throughout history for a variety of reasons. So she has all these different titles and many more. But just to be clear, it's all of these cases, it's the same person.
Same woman.
Okay. So having said all that, talk to us a little bit about these apparitions where Mary appears to Juan Diego. Anything more? Because I know we want to really focus on the miracle, but I guess, are there more details that you think would be good for folks to know about the apparitions themselves?
Well, something that just I thought of while you were talking about how Mary has different appearances, but she's the same woman, is generally when she appears to someone, and they're kind of throughout the world where apparitions have happened, that she generally appears looking like the people in the area that she's appearing, so that they will recognize her, right? Kind of as one of them, kind of. And what's really neat about, I think, this apparition is she appears as, and I might say this wrong, mestiza?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but
woman, which is Spanish and Indian combined, right?
Yep.
And in Mexico in that time, the two were kind of like at war.
The two cultures.
Yeah, like did not like each other at all.
Right.
And it was a stressful time
in
Mexico at that time. And so
So,
Yeah.
can you hold your thought
Yeah.
there? So
I'll try.
again, let's think of a historical context. This is 1531. So Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. 1492 Columbus.
So really not that.
So this is not that long after Columbus, who's Italian, but on behalf of the Spanish throne, discovered, quote unquote, the Americas, and of course the natives who were already the Indians, as we call them, who are already living there.
Yeah.
So this is just doing the math real quick. 40 years later,
Which isn't that crazy to think of?
right? Not that
it's
long.
Really
at
soon
all.
after.
So Juan Diego is one of the early Christians.
Yes.
Actually, he's baptized. He had been baptized previously. So one of the Christians. I can't remember. Do you know Robyn? So I think he was complete native, or were either of his parents Spanish? Do you know?
I don't remember
Okay.
that.
Anyway.
I don't.
So context.
Thanks for adding that because that's very helpful. So she appears as, because that was happening. So they had the two sides, but there were people getting together and having children.
Yep.
But there was still like this, the strife on both sides, right? So when Mary appears, she appears as kind of each of them, right?
Right.
And so that's so beautiful, but that Juan Diego recognizes her as Mary, and she says that's who she is. And I think he recognizes too then that she is both, right? And she's representing both. And when she appeared to him and asked for a church to be built, I think that's just we're going to talk about some of the symbolism involved in this that is really miraculous. And when Our Lady comes, she always comes peacefully, right? But also in a loving way, and ultimately to lead people, those who she is appearing to, closer to Christ.
Yes.
Every time. So anytime she appears, any apparition, that is the message, really. I mean, they're kind of different messages with each apparition, but ultimately it's to bring the love of Jesus, her son, to the people, and for them to turn their hearts to the Lord. So she's asking for a church to be built. And like you mentioned, the bishop is like, yeah, how do I know you really saw Mary?
Because Juan Diego was not like one of the quote unquote top students. I mean, this by the way, this is like a guy who's 40 or early 40s.
Yeah.
So
and
he's
he was
middle-aged.
just widowed.
Yep.
A couple years before that. And so he has to
Simple
walk.
Man.
Yeah, simple man. And so of course the bishop's like, why would I mean, okay, but how I need a sign.
Yep.
And so then that's where this goes as she appears to him once, twice more. And but it's kind of but also to his uncle. We can talk about that potentially if there's time. But anyway, so he eventually does get the sign, and that's what we're going to talk about is the sign that the bishop requests. So he says to Juan Diego, I need a sign, so I really know that you have seen our Blessed Mother and that this is real. That I really need to build a church in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
So then, you have a thought.
So hold on. Yeah. So I get the first apparition is on December 9th. 1531, which is now celebrated as the feast day of Saint Juan Diego. Juan Diego. So Juan Diego himself, to be clear, you don't become a saint just because you witness an apparition. You become a saint for the same. Juan Diego has been canonized as a saint for all the same reasons that every other man or woman has been canonized, because of holiness of life. Yeah. So this apparition had, to understate it, a deep impact on Juan Diego, such that he was already a faithful Catholic, but it led to obviously a deep conversion and led him to heroic virtue, which is what is required for canonization. Yeah. So his canonization just happened under John Paul II canonized him.
Oh, so, wild! So it's not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Yeah. So his feast day is December 9th. Yep. The day of the first apparition.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, a couple more apparitions. So on December 12th is when this is kind of a multi-part miracle, to be honest, right? So Juan Diego sees her and he goes up to her on a hill. It's December 12th. And even in Mexico, this is kind of around modern day Mexico City. Even in Mexico, it's not like 80 in Mexico. Yeah. It's cold, but there's roses.
Yeah, which would not normally be growing. So that was kind of the first miracle, right?
And does she tell him, I think he collects the roses in his tilma. So this cloak.
Kind of like their apron.
Yeah.
Like I would think of it as an apron that a worker would wear.
So he collects. She tells him. So you correct me if I'm wrong. My recollection is that that Mary tells Juan Diego,
because he goes back to her and says, "The bishop says I need a sign.
Yes.
You need to give me something because he won't listen to me until I go back with something."
Right. So she tells him, collect these roses in your tilma and bring them to the bishop as the sign.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm gonna. So he these miraculous roses.
Yeah. So he goes
collects,
on this hill,
kind of bunches them up.
Yeah. Which they would normally not be growing. Like, so it's colder there. It's a rocky soil.
Yep.
Finds these beautiful roses, and I'm sure immediately thinks, "Oh my goodness, like this is a miracle."
This is a
so
miracle.
he thinks that is the miracle.
Right.
He thinks, "I'm just going to bring these flowers back to the bishop."
Right.
And he's going to be like, "Oh, okay." Which when I think about it, I'm like, well, how is he going to know that he got the roses there and not at the market? Maybe they don't grow anybody there
Well,
or any there. I don't know. Maybe there's
No
just
fresh-
a market for anything. I don't know. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so, yeah, he goes there thinking this is the miracle. But to back up just a quick minute, there's another miracle that took place. So one of the times where Mary said, "You need to come back on such and such a time, Juan, and you need to meet me again. And I'm going to, talk to you, whatever, And he's not able to make it to one of the apparitions because his uncle was sick. Unbeknownst to him, there was a miracle taking place because when he went to the bishop, I think, right? When he went to the bishop, his Mary appears to his sick uncle and cures him, which Juan doesn't realize until after the fact. So there's another miracle taking place. But so then he takes, and then, what he gathers up these roses in his tilma, which is a big apron, and he's able to put them in there and, kind of pull it up to himself and go back. Not an easy walk to where the bishop is, So he walks to modern day Mexico City and is just planning to just drop the roses into the bishop.
Right.
And it was not easy for him just to get to the bishop. He has to go through. I mean, just if you're going to come here, you can't just walk in and see the bishop. You have to go through the proper order.
Melinda North.
So, so he needs to get to the bishop. And then when he does, he goes and drops these roses on the floor thinking, this is the miracle.
Right.
This is going to be what it takes to get a church built. And instead, when he lets these roses out, the bishop, I'm sure, looks and is like, what? And then Juan looks down and is thinking, oh my goodness, there's an image on my tilma that was not there before. This is a miracle. And it looks just like Our Lady, our Blessed Mother, that was appearing to me, which is a miracle in itself.
So this is the image that appeared. This is the image. We're going to talk more about it and unpack it, because the 15, less than 15 minutes is not going to be enough time to talk about this, but we're going to unpack the miraculous, the symbolism of this, talk a little bit more about some of it. But folks, if you're just tuning in, welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Burgwald, and I'm visiting today with Robyn Bruggeman about Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's a feast that we're going to be celebrating here on December 12th. It's about Mary's appearances to the Mexican Juan Diego in December of 1531. And so the culmination of just over a couple days, just a few appearances, but at the culmination of these appearances, there is a miracle which happens. These miraculous roses we were just talking about, Juan Diego drops it in the presence of the bishop. And I think the roses are there, but also on the tilma is this miraculous image. So we're going to talk about this image.
Yes. So your listeners, if people are listening on the radio or on podcast, if you want to see the image that we're going to reference, then they can pull this up on YouTube.
Yep. So the video's on YouTube if you want to watch as we're pointing some things out.
Or you can pull up images
anywhere online. Yeah. So we'll be, if you're listening by audio, we'll try to keep that into account. Remember to keep that in account. So a couple of things about this, the miraculous dimensions of this image. So the picture that we're looking at is an actual photograph of the actual tilma worn by Juan Diego, which still exists in Mexico City, in the Cathedral of Mexico City
on display
today.
In a glass case.
Almost, so 491 years later.
That's crazy.
So the cloth that the tilma would be made out of is not supposed to last almost 500 years.
The tilma itself should only last 20 or 30 years. So it should have been just gone long time ago.
Right.
But it is still in existence today.
So that by itself is
a miracle.
literally miraculous. There's no scientific explanation for how this tilma, forget the image.
Right. Yeah, just the tilma itself.
The tilma itself, the fact that it's still in existence, it's been studied, like every miracle is scientifically studied and so on. So the tilma has been examined by scientists. It has not been treated with some preservative or something.
Right.
It by itself is miraculous.
Yeah.
Apart from
all the symbols and amazing miracles within. It is, you can go to Mexico City and see it. It is the most visited shrine in the world, is what I've heard.
Yeah.
And then also, it has survived fire. It has survived a bomb that was placed below it and acid spilled on it. And it's still to this day, like it should not be existing. Right, and it is. So that is a miracle too. But do you want to go into the symbols, or you have the thought
well,
there?
I was going to say that. So, like bomb. What do you mean? Well, there's been periods in Mexico's history, modern history, of anti-Catholicism.
Right.
And so during one of these eras, some anti-Catholic Mexicans, because this has become such a key part of Mexican religious Mexican culture in general, including religious culture. Some people they try to destroy this image to sort of remove the religious dimension of their Mexican culture. Yeah. So that's why bombings and I think the acid was by accident.
Yeah, that's a worker. But so it is. Its existence is miraculous. But let's look at some of the symbols, and you'll see this picture on, like, I even picked up a rosary card on my way upstairs today. Like, so you'll see this a lot of places, and it is known as Our Lady of Guadalupe. So one of the coolest things is, so they can look at, it's like, so different ways of Juan would have known this is Mary, but also how people, once they saw the image, could also make some connection. So Our Lady's hair is parted in the middle and hanging loosely, which indicates she is a virgin maiden.
In the culture of that day.
In the culture, yeah.
So
in the culture, like today we would not look at that and know that.
Right. So that's how. So that's how young virgin maidens wore their hair.
Yes. Yep. So scientific analysis has shown reflections of people in the virgin's eyes. So when they study the tilma and they look at the eyes, this is incredible. They were able to like zoom in, and when they look at her eyes on the actual tilma, there are 13 total figures, including Juan Diego and the bishop. So there's like a scene of when the miracle was happening.
Right.
That's crazy, amazing.
Right.
And let's see. Oh, and that the eyes are refractive characteristics of a human eye.
Right.
That's incredible. That's amazing. Totally amazing.
So the point there is there's no way
someone could not paint that or
could not replicate this level of detail.
Right.
So the scene in which
back then,
the scene in which Juan Diego opens his tilma to he thinks just
he thinks there's nothing
there. That image was almost as if by photograph.
Yeah, which would be impossible back then to have done.
Right.
So the fact that her eyes, it's one thing to have these symbols, but that her eyes actually reflect that image is.
By the way, do you know, like, do you have any idea the size? So obviously, the size of the image itself.
Yes, I just read that before I came in, actually.
Maybe Casey, if he's able to, Casey's going to look it up for us.
So you can see a cross in the center of the medallion that she carries on the upper part of her dress.
Yep.
This manifests her consecration to her son, Jesus, whose cross reminds us both his total sacrifice for love and for the moment when he gives us Mary as our mother. The symbol of the cross was seen on the sails of the Spanish ships, which you tied in, Christopher Columbus even. The Virgin's identity as a woman of heaven and earth is affirmed by her garment colors and decorations. Her reddish tunic is the color symbolic of earth, while the star-speckled green-blue mantle symbolizes the heavens. The mantle's color indicates her royalty, since only the Aztec emperors could wear cloaks of that color.
So the important point here, the colors, again, this is as it would have been understood by the local culture. So this is not a European culture or Mideastern culture. This is for Central American
they understand
culture.
it. So they'll understand it well by seeing
what they convey as they would have understood it.
Yep, exactly. So it's showing that she is of heavenly That's where she's coming from. The 8 petal flowers symbolize the day of new creation. The blossom is in the form of a hill, and the stem is presented as a river. The hill water represented the concept of civilization. The hill represents the highest point of encounter between God and man. Viewed upside down, the flower and stem takes the form of a heart, the source of life, which belongs to and has its origin in God. So Chris has a thought here.
Well, no, so you're talking about this.
Yep. Yep.
So, okay, so if you look at the red, brown, whatever, there's this image which recurs throughout that you're describing right now.
Yep.
That has all that. By the way, Robyn, can you just refer to because I think this is available online.
Yeah. So where I have the sheet that I'm going off of is from the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and that is in Wisconsin by La Crosse. It's an amazing pilgrimage spot devoted and dedicated to her, and they have phenomenal resources available. So you can go to their website. So yeah, definitely do that. So the star, is there something else you want to add?
Keep going.
Okay. So the stars on her mantle signify that she comes from heaven. She is the queen of heaven. And the coolest thing ever is
I hope you talk about what. Go ahead.
Yeah. Her mantle, then her cloak, the constellations are in the exact position as would have appeared before dawn on the morning of December 12, 1531. So if she spread out her cloak, it would be the same constellations that they would have seen in the sky that very day above Mexico City. That's amazing.
So those stars, I'm glad this is one of the most mind-blowing aspects.
It is.
So the stars that are on the blue-green cloak correspond to the way the stars would have been in the sky. So like I'm just looking at this like, what? But astronomers can take our sky as it is today, 2022, and quote unquote rewind the image as it would have been viewable in from Central America, from Mexico, and it corresponds to the stars on her cloak.
Yeah, amazing. Couple of other things. An angel with eagle's wings supports the Mother of God. The eagle was the bird of the sun. Here, the angel is a messenger of the Virgin. The angel wears both a tunic and the same color and a brooch like hers. The angel holds her mantle in one hand and the robe with the other, signifying the son she bears is from heaven and earth. Let's see. We're going to run out of time. The 4 petaled flowers with leaves on her tunic symbolize the Aztecs of the 5th age. The age of peace has begun. The Virgin of Guadalupe, shown among the clouds, represents her divine origin. She is standing in front of the sun, so that's why you see all the way around her is like sun rays.
Yep.
The sun symbolized the greatest Aztec god, which I cannot pronounce the name, but she announces the God who is greater than their sun god.
Right.
So I love that because that's also a very important symbol because, she's coming to try and unite these two sides, but also to be like, hey, you guys are worshiping gods. There's only one God, and I'm coming to show you that. And basically all the symbolism here is pointing to that she is from heaven and there is one God and that she is bearing. So I don't know if we talked about yet, the bow above her waist.
We have not.
The dark ribbon above her womb indicates that she is a woman anticipating the birth of God's only son. So that's very cool also. And then the center of her tunic overlaying her womb is a 4-petaled jasmine flower, which is the sign of the divine and the center of the cosmic order to the Aztecs. The Virgin's baby, Jesus, is the divine and true center of the universe. And I've also read and watched some videos on how they've analyzed this so much by, like I said, scientists and even devil's advocate people to try to prove it wrong, but they can't with all of this. But that also they have done imaging to show like how far along she is pregnant.
Right.
Just like, it's just crazy, amazing stuff. And this is just some of the symbols. Well, we're going to run out of time. We only have like a minute and a half left. But there are more symbols that, and I think the thing to remember with this is that truly this is all from God.
Yep.
God does miracles all the time. And sometimes he does things like this. He used our Blessed Mother with these symbols and with the miracles to remind us, I think, of who he is, but also that he is the miracle worker, and just why would we not want to be in relationship with God, this amazing person that created us, and he sent his only son, and then he continually shows us ways that he loves us and he wants us to be in relationship with him. So they're just amazing.
So my Advent reading, the spiritual reading that I'm doing this Advent, is a book that I've actually read before at least once, if not twice, but I just continually go back to it. It's called Our Lady of Guadalupe, Mother of the Civilization of Love, by Carl Anderson, who used to be the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, and Father Eduardo Chavez, who promoted the cause of Juan Diego to be canonized, actually.
Cool.
And they talk about, so this is the final thing, this image is more than just a miracle. It actually, in all its symbolism, as you just quickly touched on some of it, it really unveils a plan for the evangelization of the culture of the Americas. So I really want to encourage, we don't have more time, study this image more. Maybe we'll talk about it next year again, Robyn. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks.
And folks, that will wrap up this episode of Ignition. Again, you can email us ignition@sfcatholic.org with any questions about today's episode or ideas for future ones. And until next time, may God bless you.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Living Lit, and reach out with topics you'd like tackled at livinglit@sfcatholic.org. And be the light, shine the light, share the light, and live lit.